I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at this moment. Your ex-husband, Bill, is named in the newest tranche of Epstein files. And there are new alleged details about his past behavior. And I want to give you the opportunity to respond in whatever way you want to.
For years, Melinda French Gates said nothing, while rumors swirled and shadows grew darker. Now, as disturbing Epstein claims resurface around Bill Gates, that silence has shattered.
It's not one thing, it was many things, but I did not like.
Her words cut deep, not with gossip, but with pain, regret, and a truth that feels impossible to ignore. This isn't about headlines anymore, it's about trust broken behind closed doors, choices that change lives, and a reckoning no amount of power can outrun. What she finally reveals will leave you stunned. For nearly 30 years, Melinda French Gates was known to the world as one half of one of the most powerful couples in technology and philanthropy. Standing alongside Bill Gates, she helped shape global health initiatives, education programs, and countless charitable efforts that touched millions of lives. But in May 2021, the world was stunned when the couple announced they were ending their marriage. The news sent shockwaves through the media, and everyone wanted to know what had gone wrong. What could cause the dissolution of a partnership that had lasted almost 3 decades and produced so much visible good in the world? When Melinda finally began speaking publicly about the divorce, it became clear that the answer was far more complicated than anyone had imagined. It was not a single event or one moment that broke the marriage apart. Instead, it was a series of incidents, revelations, and painful realizations that accumulated over several years. Each one added weight to an already strained relationship until Melinda reached a point where she could no longer continue. The first major crack appeared in 2017, though it did not involve Bill directly. A woman who worked at a bicycle shop that was partly owned by a company with ties to the Gates family came forward with serious allegations. She accused Michael Larson, who had served as Bill Gates' personal money manager for many years, of sexual harassment. Larson was a key figure in managing the vast fortune that Bill had, accumulated through Microsoft and other ventures. He oversaw Cascade Investment, a highly secretive and powerful firm that controlled billions of dollars in assets. When the accusations surfaced, Bill initially tried to address the matter quietly. According to people familiar with the situation, he hoped the issue could be resolved without attracting public attention. But Melinda was not willing to let the matter be handled behind closed doors. She insisted that an independent law firm be brought in to conduct a proper investigation. The situation was eventually settled when the woman signed an agreement that included a financial settlement and a non-disclosure clause, which meant she could not speak publicly about what had happened. Even though the matter was legally resolved, it left Melinda deeply troubled. She did not see this as an isolated incident that could simply be closed and forgotten. Instead, she believed it pointed to larger problems within the culture and operations of Cascade Investment. Michael Larson denied all of the allegations against him, but for Melinda, the damage had already been done. The situation added significant strain to her marriage, which was already dealing with other pressures. More importantly, it represented a turning point in how she viewed her role and her voice within the relationship. For many years, she had quietly accepted uncomfortable situations and chosen not to push too hard on certain issues. But now she was no longer willing to stay silent. She wanted transparency, accountability, and honest conversations, even if they led to difficult or uncomfortable truths. Then, just 2 years later, in 2019, another serious issue emerged, and this time it directly involved Bill. The board of directors at Microsoft launched an internal investigation after a female engineer at the company came forward with a claim. She stated that she had been involved in a long-term romantic and sexual relationship with Bill Gates that had begun in the year 2000 when he was still serving as chairman of Microsoft. The company took the allegations seriously and hired outside lawyers to conduct the investigation independently. Microsoft later confirmed that Bill had indeed pursued a relationship with the employee, which violated company policies regarding workplace relationships, especially those involving significant power imbalances. Bill publicly stated that he had decided to step down from Microsoft's board in March 2020 in order to focus more of his time and energy on his charitable work through the Gates Foundation. However, people close to the situation and reports in the media suggested that the investigation had played a significant role in his decision to leave the board. the timing was not coincidental. This revelation came at a particularly sensitive moment in American culture. The Me Too movement had brought widespread attention to issues of sexual harassment, abuse of power, and inappropriate workplace relationships. Stories about powerful men taking advantage of their positions were being exposed almost daily. In that environment, the investigation into Bill's conduct slowly began to chip away at the carefully constructed public image he had maintained for decades. He had long been seen as a disciplined, focused, and principled leader in the technology world, someone who had transformed computing and then turned his attention to solving some of the world's most difficult problems. But now questions were being raised about his personal conduct and judgment. For Melinda, the situation was incredibly difficult on multiple levels. Her professional work, her public identity, and her marriage had always been tightly connected. She was not just Bill's wife. She was also his partner in running one of the largest and most influential charitable foundations in history. Everything in her life was intertwined, and now all of it was under enormous pressure. The investigation and the revelations about Bill's behavior forced her to confront uncomfortable realities about the man she had been married to for more than 2 decades. But perhaps the most painful and disturbing issue for Melinda was Bill's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the financier who was later convicted of serious sex crimes involving minors. In September 2013, Melinda accompanied Bill to Epstein's townhouse in New York City. The visit took place on the same day that the couple was scheduled to receive a public service award at the Pierre Hotel. According to Melinda's later statements, the experience of being in Epstein's home left her feeling physically ill. She would later describe Epstein as evil personified, and she expressed deep regret about ever having stepped foot inside his residence. What made the situation even worse for Melinda was the discovery that Bill had continued to meet with Epstein even after that visit in 2013. When she learned about these continued meetings, she was furious. She made it absolutely clear to Bill that she found his ongoing association with Epstein completely unacceptable and deeply disturbing. Epstein's history and behavior were already well documented by that point, and Melinda could not understand why Bill would continue any kind of relationship with him. Bill later acknowledged publicly that meeting with Epstein had been a serious mistake in judgment. He expressed regret for the association. But for Melinda, the damage had already been done. The fact that her husband had maintained contact with a convicted sex offender became a major source of pain, fear, and anger in their marriage. It was not just about poor judgment. It represented a fundamental difference in values and moral boundaries that Melinda could not overlook or accept. Despite all of these mounting problems, Melinda tried to keep moving forward with her work. In April 2019, she published a book called The Moment of Lift. The book was based on her experiences traveling around the world and meeting women in various communities. In it, she argued that empowering women and investing in their health, education, and economic opportunities was the most effective way to improve entire families, communities, and societies. On the surface, the book appeared confident and full of hope. It celebrated progress and called for more action to support women everywhere. But behind the scenes, Melinda was struggling intensely. She was dealing with panic attacks and recurring nightmares. She felt a growing sense that the life she had carefully built over nearly 3 decades was no longer stable or secure. The process of writing the book had forced her to look back on her own experiences, including the years when she had been one of very few women in male-dominated technology spaces. It also made her confront how much of her own identity and her own voice she had set aside in order to support Bill and to help run their foundation. Later that same year, during a trip to Mexico, the emotional and psychological pressure finally became too much. Friends and people close to Melinda later said that she experienced something like a waking nightmare during that trip, a kind of breakdown that revealed just how deeply all of the stress and emotional damage had affected her. It was a moment when everything she had been carrying for so long came crashing down. When she returned from New Mexico in late 2019, Melinda began having serious discussions about divorce. She and Bill quietly separated while lawyers and advisors worked behind the scenes to figure out the legal and financial details. The separation was kept completely private. The public had no idea what was happening. But for Melinda, the decision had already been made. The marriage was over. The world would not learn the truth until May 2021, when Bill and Melinda Gates released a joint statement announcing their divorce. After 27 years of marriage and raising 3 children together, they stated that their relationship was irretrievably broken. They said they no longer believed they could grow together as a couple in the next phase of their lives. Later reports revealed that Melinda had actually consulted with divorce attorneys as early as October 2019. Shortly after the divorce announcement, more reports emerged in the media about Bill's continued meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, adding further context to the reasons behind the split. The final divorce settlement became one of the largest in history. According to financial reports and estimates, Melinda received assets worth approximately $76 billion, placing the split among the most expensive divorces ever recorded. What had appeared to the public as a sudden and shocking ending was, in reality, the result of years of accumulated pain, difficult realizations, and a woman finally deciding to reclaim her voice, her independence, and her future. In August 2021, just a few months after the public announcement, the divorce was officially finalized. It marked the formal end of a very public chapter in Melinda's life, but it also represented the beginning of something entirely new. Almost immediately after the divorce became final, Melinda made a powerful statement about her intentions moving forward. She announced that she would be pledging $1 billion over the next 2 years, specifically to support women's health and women's empowerment initiatives around the world. The announcement sent a clear message. Now that she was operating independently, free from the constraints and complications of her marriage, she intended to use her voice, her resources, and her influence even more boldly than before. The focus would remain on the causes that had always mattered most to her. But now she would have complete control over how she pursued them. She would not need to navigate around anyone else's priorities or accommodate anyone else's judgment. Around this same time, Melinda also began speaking more openly and honestly in interviews about the emotional toll that her marriage had taken on her over the years. For a long time, much of that pain had remained hidden from public view. She had maintained a composed and professional image, even as things were falling apart behind the scenes. But now she was willing to be more vulnerable and more direct about what she had experienced. In several interviews, she discussed Bill's infidelities, including the affair with the Microsoft employee that had eventually led to the board investigation. She explained that these betrayals had deeply affected her mental and emotional health. They were not things she could simply brush aside or move past quickly. The betrayals triggered panic attacks, sleepless nights, and recurring nightmares that disrupted her ability to function normally. She found herself constantly anxious and struggling to maintain her sense of stability. Melinda also spoke about a deeper and more gradual loss that had occurred over the course of more than a decade. She described how she had slowly lost her sense of who she really was while standing beside one of the most powerful and famous men in the world. The work they did together through the Gates Foundation was important and meaningful, but it also came with enormous responsibilities and pressures. She often felt like she was carrying a tremendous weight, and over time that weight began to crush her sense of self. She had spent so many years supporting Bill's vision, accommodating his decisions, and navigating the complications that came with being married to someone of his stature that she had gradually lost touch with her own identity and her own needs. Therapy became a crucial turning point in her healing process. Through counseling, Melinda began to slowly rebuild her sense of self and figure out who she was outside of the marriage and outside of the partnership she had maintained for so long. She learned how to process what had happened to her without losing her core values or becoming bitter and angry in a way that would consume her. The therapeutic work was difficult and often painful, but it allowed her to move forward with clarity and purpose rather than remaining stuck in anger or regret. Her honesty about these struggles struck a deep chord with many women around the world. While most people had not lived her exact life or dealt with her specific circumstances, they recognized the emotions she was describing. Many saw their own experiences reflected in her story, even if the scale and the details were different. The feeling of losing yourself in a relationship, the experience of staying silent about things that hurt you, the slow erosion of your own identity while supporting someone else, these were things that many women had experienced in their own lives. Melinda's willingness to speak openly about her pain gave others permission to acknowledge their own. One name that kept coming up repeatedly in public discussions about the divorce was Jeffrey Epstein. For many people trying to understand why the marriage had ended, Epstein's involvement became a focal point. Melinda addressed this directly in several interviews. She made it clear that Epstein's presence in their lives had become a final breaking point for her. She repeated in multiple conversations that his involvement represented a serious and irreparable crack in the foundation of the marriage. Melinda explained that she had warned Bill early on about Epstein, even before the full extent of his crimes had become widely known. She had felt uncomfortable from the very first meeting and had made her feelings clear. But when Bill continued to meet with Epstein even after the financier's death in 2019, when more information about his horrific actions had come to light, it became clear to Melinda that she and Bill did not share the same moral boundaries or the same judgment about what was acceptable. She saw any continued association with a known abuser of young women as something she could not accept, overlook, or rationalize. It represented a fundamental difference in values that could not be bridged. After the divorce, Bill publicly admitted that his relationship with Epstein had been a serious error in judgment. He expressed regret and said he wished he had never gotten involved with him. Melinda, however, chose to focus less on explanations and justifications and more on action. Her attention remained firmly on supporting victims of abuse and pushing for accountability in all areas where powerful people had escaped consequences for their actions. Then, in December 2024, another major change became official. Melinda announced that she would be stepping down from the Gates Foundation, leaving Bill as the sole chair of the organization. For more than 20 years, she had helped build, shape, and guide the foundation that carried both of their names. She had been deeply involved in setting priorities, making funding decisions, and representing the organization around the world. Walking away from that shared platform was not an easy decision, but she made it clear that this move would allow her to focus fully on her own mission and her own priorities. Once again, she committed at least $1 billion over 2 years to projects specifically centered on improving the lives of women and girls. She explained that leaving the foundation would give her more direct control over how she spent her time, her energy, and her resources. She would no longer need to coordinate with Bill or compromise on funding decisions. She could pursue the work that mattered most to her without having to navigate the complexities of a shared organization. Her departure from the Gates Foundation raised significant questions about the future of the organization itself. The foundation had always been presented as a joint effort, a partnership between two people who shared a vision for improving global health and reducing poverty. With Melinda gone, some people wondered whether the foundation would change its priorities or lose some of its effectiveness. But the departure also highlighted a broader and deeper issue. Very few women in history have held the level of power and influence that Melinda had held in global philanthropy. Her exit marked the end of an era and the beginning of something more personal and more focused. After the divorce, Melinda also began sharing small but meaningful glimpses into her personal life, something she had rarely done before. She spoke openly in interviews about being in a new relationship and feeling genuinely happy. She described feeling calmer and more at peace than she had felt in many years. There was a sense of relief and lightness in her voice when she talked about this new phase of her life. She was no longer carrying the weight of a troubled marriage or the constant stress of trying to hold together something that was fundamentally broken. At the same time, she increased her investments through Pivotal Ventures, the organization she had founded in 2015 to focus on advancing social progress in the United States. Through Pivotal Ventures, she continued to support initiatives aimed at increasing women's representation in leadership, improving access to capital for women entrepreneurs, and expanding policies that supported caregivers and families. Her work remained grounded in the same central belief that had always guided her efforts. When women gain power, resources, and opportunities, entire families, communities, and economies grow stronger and more resilient. Slowly but noticeably, her public image began to shift. Her story was no longer mainly about being the wife of a famous tech founder or the co-chair of a major philanthropic organization. Instead, it became the story of a woman who had rebuilt herself after both a private and public storm. She had walked away from a marriage that no longer served her, left an organization she had helped create, and carved out a new path that was entirely her own. By the mid-2000s, Melinda's financial position remained massive. Her estimated net worth was close to $15 billion, making her one of the wealthiest women in the world. But unlike many wealthy individuals who focus primarily on accumulating more wealth or maintaining their status, Melinda was committed to using a large portion of that wealth to address deep and long-standing problems affecting women and girls around the world. Through pivotal ventures alone, she invested hundreds of millions of dollars into more than 150 organizations, working on issues ranging from technology access and financial inclusion to media representation and political participation. Her impact could be seen in very specific places and projects around the world. In Pakistan, for example, the Gates Foundation helped finance a €55 million loan in December 2023. This funding included a €20 million principal buy-down from the foundation to support national health institutions and the Pakistan Polio Eradication Initiative. The money went towards strengthening immunization programs, paying and training female health workers, and improving disease tracking systems. It was a concrete example of how focusing on women as healthcare providers and community leaders could create broader improvements in public health. The funding also inspired local projects based on Melinda's model of investing in women-centered solutions, including financial technology services designed to give women greater control over their personal finances. These kinds of initiatives reflected her belief that small changes in access and opportunity could create ripple effects that transformed entire communities. In 2025, Melinda's voice became even more personal and reflective when she released a memoir titled The Next Day. In the book, she looked back on her college years, her entry into the male-dominated world of technology, her time working at Microsoft, her experiences with motherhood, the loss of close friends, and the slow unraveling of her marriage. She wrote clearly and without making excuses that the divorce had been necessary because honesty and trust had completely broken down. She explained that real intimacy cannot survive when dishonesty sits at the center of a relationship. No amount of shared history, no amount of good work done together, and no amount of public success can make up for the absence of trust and honesty between two people. Melinda Ann French was born on August 15, 1964, in Dallas, Texas. She came into a world that was rapidly changing, particularly for women, though those changes were still in their early stages. Her childhood home was one where structure and curiosity existed comfortably side by side. From a very early age, her life followed clear routines and expectations, but those routines were never cold or overly strict. Instead, they were filled with warmth, a sense of purpose, and a strong emphasis on the importance of learning and education. She was the second of 4 children in her family, growing up in a household where everyone was expected to contribute in meaningful ways. Her father worked as an aerospace engineer during the Apollo era, a time when America was focused on the ambitious goal of sending astronauts to the moon. His work was technical, demanding, and connected to one of the most significant achievements in human history. Meanwhile, her mother stayed at home, managing the household with steady values, consistent daily habits, and a deep sense of responsibility toward raising the children properly. The family lived comfortably, though they were not wealthy by any means. Her parents believed strongly in careful planning and responsible financial management rather than excess or extravagance. They understood the realities of their situation. They were raising 4 children, and all 4 of those children would eventually need to go to college. That meant 4 college tuitions to pay for at a time when higher education costs were already climbing steadily. Recognizing this financial challenge ahead, her father made a bold decision in the late 1970s. He decided to start a small rental property business as a way to help secure the family's financial future. What began as a practical plan to save money for college expenses quickly became something much larger. It turned into a family project, and Melinda found herself involved in the work almost from the very beginning. By the age of 10, she was already helping with the rental properties in tangible ways. She held paintbrushes while walls were being painted, helped clean apartments between tenants, scrubbed floors, and watched closely as her father made small repairs. Weekends were no longer just a time to relax and play. They became lessons in teamwork, responsibility, and the value of hard work. Through this experience, Melinda slowly began to realize something important. Hard work felt much easier and more manageable when everyone in the family shared the responsibility. That simple idea stayed with her long after her childhood ended. As the rental property business grew and expanded, so did Melinda's responsibilities within it. By the time she was 12 years old, she was handling simple bookkeeping tasks for the business. She learned how to balance numbers, track expenses, and keep careful records. These were skills that most children her age never encountered, let alone mastered. Each apartment that was cleaned, each repair that was completed, and each financial record that was carefully managed meant more money saved for college tuition in the years ahead. Nobody ever sat her down for a formal lecture about discipline, planning, or independence. She simply learned these things by doing them. She absorbed the lessons through direct experience, watching her parents work and contributing her own effort to the family's goals. She came to understand the real value of sustained effort and careful planning long before she had the vocabulary or the maturity to fully articulate what she was learning. During her early teenage years, another major influence entered her life that would shape her future in ways nobody could have predicted at the time. Around 1978, her father brought home an Apple II computer. The Apple II had first been released in 1977 and represented one of the earliest personal computers that ordinary families could actually purchase and use at home. For Melinda, that machine changed everything. At the age of 14, she began using the computer to help organize the rental property records, making the bookkeeping work faster and more efficient. But soon, something else caught her attention. The blinking cursor on the screen fascinated her. She started experimenting, teaching herself the basics of computer programming. She would type in commands again and again, adjusting and correcting them until the computer responded in the way she wanted. Very few girls were learning to code during that time period. It was still seen as something primarily for boys and men, particularly those interested in mathematics and engineering. But Melinda found the experience both calming and deeply satisfying. What she loved most was that the computer did not care about her age or her gender. It only cared whether the logic she was using was correct. If she wrote the code properly, the computer would do exactly what she told it to do. If she made a mistake, it would not work, and she would need to figure out what went wrong and fix it. She found that simplicity refreshing and fair. She spent hours sitting at that computer writing small programs designed to solve simple problems for the family business. Through this process, she began to develop a belief that would stay with her throughout her life. She came to see technology as a tool that could bring order to her complexity and turn abstract ideas into concrete, practical solutions. That belief became a core part of her identity. Her curiosity and her abilities grew even stronger when she entered Ursuline Academy of Dallas in 1978. Ursuline was an all-girls Catholic school with a strong academic reputation. The school challenged its students academically, and Melinda thrived under that pressure. She worked diligently in all of her classes, but she particularly excelled in mathematics and science. Her teachers quickly noticed her focus, her discipline, and her determination to understand difficult concepts fully. Ursuline Academy was also among the very first schools in Texas to introduce computers into the classroom, a decision that would have a profound influence on Melinda's future direction. The school recognized early on that computer technology was going to become increasingly important, and they wanted to prepare their students for that reality. For Melinda, the computer science classes felt exciting but also intimidating at times. She was entering a field that was still largely dominated by men, and there were moments when she felt uncertain about whether she belonged. But every project she completed and every program she successfully wrote pushed her further into a field she was already beginning to love. She discovered that she had a natural aptitude for understanding how computers worked and how to make them do useful things. The combination of logical thinking, problem solving, and creativity appealed to her in ways that few other subjects did. When Melinda graduated from Ursuline Academy in 1982, she did so as valedictorian, the top student in her entire class. She carried with her much more than just excellent grades and academic honors. She had developed a strong work ethic, a deep curiosity about technology, and a growing confidence in her own abilities. She had learned from her family that hard work and careful planning could open doors and create opportunities. She had discovered through her early experiences with computers that she had real talent in a field that was just beginning to explode in importance, and she had proven to herself through years of disciplined study that she could compete and succeed even in environments where women were still a small minority. All of these lessons would serve her well in the years ahead as she prepared to enter the competitive and male-dominated world of computer science and technology. Not long after graduating from Ursuline Academy, Melinda took her first paid job outside of the family business. She began tutoring younger students in mathematics and computer programming. It was the early 1980s, and it was quite rare to see a teenage girl standing in front of students and teaching them how to write code. The field of computer programming was still overwhelmingly male, and most people did not expect to see young women in that role. Still, Melinda stood confidently in front of confused, and sometimes frustrated students patiently explaining lines of basic computer code for $5 an hour. While the pay was considered good for someone her age, the real reward came from something else entirely. She discovered how much she genuinely enjoyed helping other people understand difficult and abstract ideas. Teaching forced her to think even more clearly about the concepts she was explaining, and it strengthened her own knowledge in the process. It also gave her a sense of confidence that would stay with her throughout her career. When Melinda arrived at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina in 1982, all of those early lessons and experiences came with her. But she quickly discovered that the academic environment at Duke was different from anything she had experienced before, particularly in her computer science classes. In many of those classes, she was one of very few women in the room. The atmosphere felt noticeably different from the supportive, all-female environment she had known at Ursuline Academy. Male students in her classes often shouted out answers without hesitation, dominating classroom discussions and creating an environment that could feel overwhelming at times. In one of her early computer science courses, the professor introduced a programming language that Melinda had never encountered before. For a brief moment, doubt crept in. She wondered whether she really belonged in that space, whether she could compete with students who seemed so confident and so quick to respond. But she did not retreat or give up. Instead, she pushed forward with determination. She studied longer hours than many of her peers, worked harder to master the material, and learned faster as a result. She refused to let the intimidating atmosphere stop her from pursuing something she genuinely loved. Her persistence paid off. By 1986, she earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science and Economics, completing a rigorous program that many students found extremely challenging. Just 1 year later, in 1987, Melinda completed her Master of Business Administration degree at Duke's Fuqua School of Business. She was only 23 years old when she finished her MBA, an impressive achievement that demonstrated both her intellectual abilities and her drive to succeed. Her journey through those demanding undergraduate and graduate years was built on determination, discipline, and resilience. She had proven to herself that she could thrive in difficult and competitive environments, even when she was in the minority. Her connection to Duke University did not end when she graduated. Many years later, after she had achieved success in her career and become deeply involved in philanthropy, she continued giving back to the institution that had shaped her education. She served as a Duke University Board trustee from 1996 to 2003, helping guide the university's direction and supporting its mission to provide excellent education to future generations of students. As Melinda's work in philanthropy grew and expanded over the decades, recognition for her efforts began to accumulate. In 1998, both Melinda and Bill Gates were given honorary memberships by the American Library Association, acknowledging their support for libraries and literacy programs. In 2002, they received the award for Greatest Public Service benefiting the disadvantaged, an honor presented annually by the Jefferson Awards to recognize individuals who have made exceptional contributions to helping those in need. In December 2005, Time magazine named Melinda and Bill Gates as Persons of the Year, alongside the musician Bono. The recognition highlighted their work in global health and poverty reduction. On May 4, 2006, they were honored with Spain's Prince of Asturias Award for International Cooperation, which recognized the worldwide impact of their charitable efforts. Later that same year in November, Melinda and Bill received Mexico's Order of the Aztec Eagle for their philanthropy in health and education, with particular recognition for their support of literacy programs. Also in May 2006, Seattle Children's Hospital honored Melinda specifically for her work improving the lives of children by naming the Melinda French Gates Ambulatory Care Building after her. Beyond the naming honor, she had also led a major fundraising campaign that raised $300 million. The funds were used to expand hospital facilities, provide care for patients who could not afford treatment, and grow research efforts aimed at finding new cures and developing better medical treatments for children. In 2007, Melinda French Gates received an honorary doctorate in medicine from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, Sweden, one of the world's most prestigious medical institutions. In 2009, she and Bill were awarded honorary degrees from the University of Cambridge in England. Their donation of $210 million in 2000 had helped create the Gates Cambridge Trust, which continues to support graduate students from outside the United Kingdom who are studying at Cambridge. In 2013, Duke University awarded Melinda an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters in recognition of her long-standing commitment to philanthropy and her support of the university. That same year, she received the UCSF Medal from the University of California, San Francisco, and was appointed an honorary Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire for her work in philanthropy and global development. In 2015, Melinda and Bill Gates jointly received India's Padma Bhushan Award for their foundation's extensive work in that country, particularly in areas of public health and disease prevention. In 2016, President Barack Obama awarded them the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. In 2017, French President François Hollande honored Melinda and Bill Gates with France's highest national award, the Legion of Honor, for their charitable efforts around the world. That same year, she received the Otto Hahn Peace Medal for promoting peace and international understanding. She was also ranked number 12 on a list of the 200 most influential philanthropists and social entrepreneurs worldwide. In June 2024, Melinda French Gates delivered the commencement speech at Stanford University, addressing a new generation of graduates about the importance of using their education and their talents to make a positive difference in the world. Her journey from a young girl helping her father manage rental properties in Dallas to becoming one of the most influential philanthropists in the world demonstrated what determination, education, and a genuine commitment to helping others could achieve. Through decades of work, personal challenges, and eventually finding her own independent voice, Melinda had built a legacy that extended far beyond wealth or recognition. She had shown that real change comes from sustained effort, moral clarity, and the courage to stand up for what truly matters.